What's up, Mac Nowstalgia? Dave here with a review of In the Gray, the new action thriller film from Guy Ritchie starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and Eiza González. This is Guy Ritchie's 7th film of the 2020s. Post-Aladdin, Guy Ritchie continues to stay incredibly busy making these action films in his traditional lens. Perhaps most interestingly about In the Gray is that this film was shot quite some time ago, actually at the end of 2023. And it ended up having its initial release delayed by Lionsgate to the point where Lionsgate decided to sell the rights, and Black Bears actually picked up this movie and is releasing it. Lionsgate seemingly has gotten out of the Guy Ritchie business, at least for the time being. Guy Ritchie does have 2 more movies already in the can in post-production, one of which is coming out this October, Wife and Dog. Both of those upcoming movies are also with Black Bears, so it seems like production and distribution partnerships for Guy Ritchie have shifted. And why might that be? I mean, if we reflect on, this 2020's run from Ritchie, it's been prolific, right? And I even think the quality has been pretty solid. I think if you like his brand, especially his dry humor, whether it's with a Jason Statham style lead or something a bit more serious, either way, if you like that sort of thing, he largely delivers. It's just not the most ambitious fare. That being said, those movies have started to struggle at the box office for Ritchie, right? I mean, with few exceptions, like Wrath of Man had a surprisingly really robust international box office, but Operation Fortune had a really troubled release, for example. It's been quiet, and it's not that the quality has drastically suffered anything. I thought The Covenant, for example, with Jake Gyllenhaal was really tremendous. But on the other hand, I think audiences maybe have noticed that this style, this run from Ritchie is just at a different point in his career than, say, maybe where he was, pre-COVID, pre-Aladdin, when we think of like the Man from U.N.C.L.E. remake and the Sherlock Holmes films, and of course his 2 classics in the beginning of his career with Snatch and Lock, Stock. We're not really at that level right now. But I do think it is kind of admirable that he continues to just make these movies that, frankly, I think punch above their weight, right? They're not super expensive, they're not super cheap either. But I do think they go farther than they should have. I think a big part of that is these movies just have loaded casts. In the case of In the Gray, you have a really stacked trifecta at the top with Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and Eiza González. Cavill and González is their 3rd time working with Ritchie, Gyllenhaal his 2nd. Additionally, you also have Rosamund Pike, Fisher Stevens, Christopher Pugh, and Carlos Bardem, the brother of Javier Bardem. Loaded cast, and it's shot and takes place almost entirely in the Canary Islands, so it looks really nice. I mean, having the ocean backdrop in general makes the film visually pop, and a lot of the outdoors action set pieces look pretty solid. Is Guy Ritchie's In the Gray anything you haven't seen before from Ritchie? No. When you have a really stacked cast featuring Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and Eiza González, the floor is just inherently higher. I thought In the Gray was really entertaining and one of the better Guy Ritchie films of this prolific run he's been on. Coming in at a brisk 90 minutes, the film is exactly what you want it to be. Eiza González plays Rachel, a lawyer tasked with acquiring a debt from a billionaire criminal. Gyllenhaal and Cavill play her extra legal security / insurance policies. It's one of the best roles Gonzalez has had in quite some time. She has a lot of screen time. And Gyllenhaal and Cavill, I really write at home with this wisecracking security fixing work as they both narrate events and plan out various contingency plans as they work to secure their boss and ensure she achieves her objective. Is there much in the way of suspense or tension of whether the various things they outline in their plans will come to pass? No, of course not. Everything they talk about and foresee as a fail-safe obviously happens. This movie has to have its action sequences, but I do think it's pretty thrilling and satisfying to see a lot of that played out, even if it was just dictated to us through the beginning of the movie. Maybe the exposition is a little bit heavy, maybe it drowns on a little too long, perhaps, but I still enjoyed it. There is one scene at a bar that feels particularly contrived, but I think the execution of the scene is still satisfying enough that you kind of don't mind. The film does have a ending that's pretty neat and perhaps pretty abrupt, in a sense, because there's all this exposition between Cavill's Sid and Gyllenhaal's Bronco throughout the beginning of the film, right? Them and their small crew have kind of canvassed the island that the billionaire calls home, and they've planned for various extractions for Rachel should her ability to secure the debt fail and they get aggressive with her. Even though that's going to happen, I really like them going through all of it just because I think visually the various locations on the island work pretty compelling. There's plenty of chase sequences, plenty of fighting, plenty of gun violence. Like, it's all those things you ask for. I think Fisher Stevens also was quite enjoyable as the billionaire's lawyer who finds himself outwitted and outplayed by Rachel. Do we fully understand how Rachel and her crack team of both legal and extra legal support staff, do we understand how they're able to get the best of the billionaire Salazar in court? Perhaps it would be a bit more confusing if the film tried to dwell on any of those things, but it doesn't. It really keeps it all moving, and you're just able to roll with it. I think Rosamund Pike's role as the, asset management firm who hires Rachel to secure the debt, I think that extra layer is introduced kind of in the beginning of the film, the end of the film, and really nowhere else. Don't think that was really necessary at all. It's kind of a nothing part. Pike is returning for Ritchie's next film later this fall, for what it's worth. But yeah, I think for what this is, what expectations are for Ritchie nowadays, this exceeded my expectations, and I thought it was just quite entertaining, honestly. Would I like Ritchie to make movies with a little bit more ambition and hopefully reach a higher quality level than he's done with this prolific run? Of course I would, right? Of course I would love him to get back to something like Snatch or Lock, Stock, or even the Sherlock Holmes movies, right? Just his visual flair is still present, but not to the same degree it was back then. And that style of filmmaking really got him a lot of fans, and he's not fully back to that by any means. Maybe he can get there one day, but he seems to be just really enjoying the work at this point, and we'll see how this partnership with Black Bear continues to operate. Black Bear obviously is a pretty nascent production company for sure, a little bit more experienced distributor, but he's working on the margins at the moment, right? And if Lionsgate wants to move on, you're kind of running out of options. So I'll be curious how often he's able to make movies that have budgets, this high. This is, several tens of millions, right? This is not a cheap movie necessarily, even if it's, pretty tactically made with one location for the most part. There's a very brief interstitial scene in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis notably were co-producers, co-financers of this film. You see that in the beginning. But yeah, let me know, what'd you think of In the Gray? What'd you like most about it? And for more movie reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.